ha, reflexive, passive. He was healed, lanu, for us. And in his wound, he was healed for us. What do you mean he was healed? Because he took all the sin on himself. At that moment, he became sin. What does he do with it? He heals himself, being God. But he's doing this as a man through the Holy Spirit. And he's healing it for not him, because it was not his sin. He who knew no sin became sin. Sinless one. Took it on himself, becomes it for us. He has it all. He healed it all. So to say you have it denies to that degree that he has it and paid it. So we're living a lie, and a lie has to die. So that lie for all of us has to die. It just comes. Good. That frees it up. Remember this term. How do you say this one here? Tola'at, which means something about the scarlet or crimson color, right? Kokinos. Kokinos is a term in Greek. Kokinos is a coccus worm. We got a color called scarlet. Where do you think the color itself comes from? It came from a worm.
Oh, yeah.
It came from a worm. It was called by one of two names or the compound. The one up here, Shani, say Shani.
Shiny.
Shani. And it also comes from, say this, Tola'at. Tola'at. So it means scarlet, but it comes from, this is scarlet, but it comes from this worm that would be crushed, that would yield in its blood the scarlet color. So they used an animal. God used an animal to cover your sins. He also used, in this case, an animal to make scarlet red out of the kokos of this worm itself. For the priestly garment, for the leprous, incurable ceremony before Christ, for scarlet thread that took a harlot and said, you're saved. Now, in Matthew 27:28, and they stripped him, so with the dealing with Christ, 27:28, Matthew 27:28, Matthew 27:28. Real can time? We're good? Okay. In about 10-15 minutes before we begin at the on the bed. I want to get this into you though. And they stripped him and put on him. They stripped him. So they took off his and they put something on him. Who are these? The Romans. They put a scarlet garment over him. But that scarlet garment's made from a worm that's crushed. They clothed him with crimson worm, kokinos, or in the full form, both words are together here, say shani tolat. Shani, like a knee. Shani, again, shani, toe, like a toe, tola'at. Tola'at. Good. Tola'at. At, like a holding the throat, blood will stop, like butter, like hot and butter. Shani tolat. This is the blood that clothed Christ with this blood red, scarlet red garment. Priest wore, used in the ceremony of leper, where had the harlot had it, saved her life. Priest used it to minister before God, and it couldn't be made any other way. It had to be made a very specific way. So let's introduce you to this here. This crimson worm. The crimson worm life cycle of a female crimson worm. Now listen carefully. She freely, of her own self, chooses to attach herself to an oak tree. This is in nature. His invisible power and divine nature, Romans 1:20, his invisible now power and divine nature are clearly seen, being understood by the things made, so they are without excuse. Romans 1:20. Right? Female caucus. She freely gives of herself as choosing. I lay my life down. No one takes it from me. I lay it down on my own accord. She freely chooses to attach herself to an oak tree to such a degree she cannot be removed from the oak tree without tearing her own body off in bits and pieces. This is done for a reason, though, so she could lay her eggs. Children are birthed on a cross. Free children. Her children, and be in a position in which she can absolutely, upon birth, protect them when they are born. Because you're very vulnerable at that stage. She does this only once. And it is finished. And when it comes in Hebrews 9:28, he comes again without reference to sin. So the millennial kingdom will not see the lamb. They will see the lion of the tribe of Judah, who will rule with a rod of iron. So, she does this once to lay her life down. She's in a position to protect them when they're born. She does this only once in her lifetime. And when the eggs are laid, she then excretes this shani tolat, a blood-red substance, from her own body that covers the children totally. While she's on a cross, on an oak tree, Christ was crucified on a tree. Remember the word AIDS? You'll study it later, if you should remember now. She does this only once in a lifetime. When her eggs are laid, she exudes a blood-like substance gel to cover the firstborn with her body and them all under the blood. The blood stains the tree also at the same time. And this lasts for 3 days. After 3 days, the blood-red substance now turns white. Pure white.
Oh man.
Scarlet red thread. That's how everything here is made through the crimson worm. So 3 days, blood red. 4th day, he's risen. Sinless, pure, perfect, white.
It's the gospel through a worm.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The blood red gel is transformed into white with a crimson worm. When it is crushed, there's more.
Oh.
When it's crushed, the worm is crushed, it yields a fragrant smell. And that fragrant smell is in 2 Corinthians 2:14. Thanks be to God who always leads us into victory and through us diffuses the fragrance of his knowledge. The fragrance. 2 Corinthians 2:14. The fragrance of his knowledge in every place. 2 Corinthians 2:14, the fragrance of his knowledge upon crushing. And Isaiah 53, 10, 11, and it pleased the Lord to crush him, if he would render himself an asham. Out comes a fragrant smell. Helki Yahweh, Amorti Lishmor Deverecha. The Lord is my portion. Well, technically, my portion is the Lord. I have said to keep his word. Go to then Psalm 22, verse 6, 7 in Hebrew. Psalm 22, 6. Ani Anochi Tolaat. I am a worm. Lo ish Tolaat. I am a worm. It's there. Yes. Tolaat. I am a worm and I am not a man. I'm a worm on a cross. I'm a worm on a tree.
And what does ish mean there? Man?
Yes. Isaiah 1:18. Yes, Denny. Isaiah 1:18. Come, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, I'll make them white as snow. They be as red as crimson, I'll make them white like wool. Come, let us reason together. I got this. I'm a woman, not a man. I'm everywhere and anywhere. How come you haven't seen me? More. The crimson worm, the coccus, historically has disappeared from Israel about the year 30 AD.
What are you gonna say, Joe?
Yeah.
It's gone for the last 2,000 years, appearing in July 2008.
Oh,
For such a time as
This.
this. That's when we should have been going home.
Wow, you're right. You're
So.
right.
I am a worm, not a man. Now we haven't done this yet. And Ruth and Daniel will pick it up too. There's a little more advanced for but they have to hear something they haven't heard, and they've heard many things. Now you've heard it bridged together. This word tola'at, Jesus is the beginning and the end, is he not?
Yeah.
So if I take him who is the first and the first and last letter of this word tola'at is the same letter, it's a tav, so it's a tav of tavs. So he is the covenant of covenants. He's the seal of all seals. He's the perfection of all perfection. He's the cross of all crosses. Many people have been killed on a cross before. But there's one cross of all crosses that is the supreme cross. And it's hidden inside the term in Hebrew for a worm. Now let's translate this letter by letter, because in Hebrew every letter has a meaning. By the power, this is one layer, okay? By the power, through the covenant of the cross, the crucified man's teaching are seen in covenant, which is what you've just been doing the last hour or two.
Say that one more time.
Sure.
Yeah, one more.
By the covenant,
Which word is that?
tola'at, tav. Tav means every letter has a meaning. And every word has many meanings. So the first letter deals with covenant and cross. So we're giving some layers upon layers to build a sentence, a paragraph, a story, a history. So the greatest covenant, the covenant of covenants, the Tav of Tavs, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the God of Gods, the worm of worms. The perfection of perfection, the covenant of covenants, the cross of crosses, the seal of all seals, the truth of all truth, the greatest truth, the greatest covenant, the greatest perfection, the greatest seal. Now we examine the word internally. Now we look in the window. You got it?
Yes.
Now we look inside the window. By the cross, the crucified man, Vav, his teaching. Through the cross, the crucified man's teachings will be seen through covenant. Without covenant with him, they saw Jesus and they never saw him. I don't know, show us something. I've been here 3 years. Witness, show me something. You get a person whose name was, I can hear, Simeon from Shema. And he heard and he recognized the baby, because believing is seeing. Seeing is not always believing. There's a second word to this which you shouldn't forget. The other word for the same item in the same coccus worm is shani. Why are there two names? Something to think about also. Shani is the other word. Shen, shin, to destroy life's work. Life's work. Let's just do the math on that for a moment. Every letter in Hebrew has a mathematical equivalent. God made numbers, He made math. Psalm 147, verse 4, I believe. Rick, I'll have you check it. 147:4. He numbered all the stars, numbered and called them all by name, numbered and named. So everything has a name and a number, has an essence, and math is a language. What is Sheen? It's 300, right? What is Noon? Perfect. What is Yod?
10.
How much is that? 300 and what?
60.
Well, that's close to, what's 386?
Yeshua.
386, very good. Is Yeshua, how much does it take to get to 26? What is 26? The name on the cross. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. So if you could recognize the cross, if you could recognize the worm, who is God, then you'll see Yeshua. Otherwise you won't see him at all. You'll just see a worm. Let's do that again. Yeshua, one of the names of God, excuse me, I said it wrong. The only name of God among all names, so these are attributive. He has one name only in Exodus 3 at the burning bush, 3:14, 15, 3:15. Yod is 10, 5, 6, 5. So I take the number, I like doing the most 10, 16, and 5 is 26. So
Okay.
God's name equals 26. His personal name, Yahweh, right? That's Yahweh, that's God's name. That's 26, Yahweh. Now, when in the Bible, we could translate your entire Hebrew, not English or any Spanish, French, Swahili, Hindi, it doesn't matter, into math. And every single word and letter will have its mathematical. Who wrote this book? Where all the grammar agrees, all the history agrees, all the archaeology agrees, and all the math agrees. And if you change one letter, you change the math, it's something else totally. It's not going to be there. So when I see Yeshua, I see 386 instantly. Then I see number 323, Shani, it's a worm. But we know that's him. Tola'at is him, Shani is him. Shani is one of his names here. It's 360. Then I say, all right, what plus what is what? All math, calculus, everything else is in the book. We're just doing adding and subtracting right now. Exponents are fun. Exponents are a lot of fun. So I say 360 Shani plus what? I could see Yeshua. Well, how am I going to see a worm and then see Yeshua? He said, I am a worm. Anuchi Tolat. But you can't see that unless you know that Yeshua is God-man. And when you put properly, see what is hidden in plain view here, the 26, which is God, who was silent before Pilate, with reason about somebody's marriage. You got 26, so 360, the worm, who is God, you'll see Yeshua. That's how we translate the math back. And it's tight with no mistakes and unalterably accurate. Now you see something you haven't seen. What is it?
Yeah.
Say again.
Understood in every country.
Yes. Now, two other pieces, much shorter, the blood. What is the word blood here? Hadam. Now, the word blood itself is dam, right?
Yes.
Now, most of you, when you think blood, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you just think blood is coursing through your body. You're on the right track. Blood is coursing through your body. You can go next. Blood is coursing through your body. It has the life is in the flesh. The life of the flesh is in the blood. But we haven't penetrated. We can do physiology. We can look at blood components. We do blood tests and everything else. But let's go back to what God says when He says what blood is spiritually and alterably through every human being, including 7.2 billion that are in the world today. Every letter has a meaning. So what is a dalit first? Door or path. And the mem sofit represents water, chaos, destruction, or also strength. And as a final form, could also represent, and does, Messiah. So let's look at it as applies to Jesus, since the blood of Jesus is the only blood that really counts here. The blood is the door, and it is the path. Let's use the term path first. It's a path to and of the Messiah. It's of Him, and it's taking us to Him.
Is that
He-
Mem Sophie?
Yes, it's a final man. So the final Messiah. The seal of all Messiahs. Remember, Cyrus is called Messiah in Isaiah 45. So this is the Messiah, not just a Messiah. This is the Messiah. So the blood is a path to the Messiah. What happens when it's God's blood coursing through you? You'll be on the right path. If it's a different blood, like a wrong blood sacrifice, it'll take you somewhere else. Why? Because that final mem is also ultimate chaos. So this blood is also the path to ultimate chaos. Because of whose blood is running the show for you. Is his blood in you? Is it the crimson blood of a worm who's God, who displays himself as God-man, Yeshua? Of course, when I see Shani, I see a worm, a form, with the invisible, visible form, with the invisible God, who comes as God-man, Yeshua, 386. Messiah. Now let's do something for you. How do you get from the path to the Messiah? What is the math? This you haven't done yet. We may have done it once in the last few years. Sometimes God has us put something out that's a few years ahead of you, to throw a line out, like a fishing line, farther out. But we can all get it. And when you know that you don't know, it doesn't matter, because you will grow into those clothes. That's why you save your clothes for the kids too as they grow up, right? And you get them. So that's fine. Now, if you take this letter, 2 letters, what is this? This is blood, Dam. What is the word for blood again? It's Dam. So it's the path of the Messiah, ultimately. Now, let's just open it up this way, okay? We'll make it a little larger. I'm just making a space here, just opening the 2 letters. And this is, Dalet is 4. Mem is what? 40. So 4 plus what equals, so 36, right? Give me a word that's 36. This you'll learn to get to, okay? And usually start with the 2 letters that, you can do, there's dozens of words at times, but what is one that uses the least number of letters? What's 30? 30 is what in Hebrew? Lamed. Lamed is 30, and what is 6? So try to derive 36 with only the least number of letters. What is 30? Lamed. Start there. What is 6? Vav. Alright, so that's 36. What is the term lo? There's a term with an aleph lo that means God. No. There's a term with, that's Cain. There's a term, just slow down. There's a term, you're the right answer on both for something else. It's a homonym, which is a different meaning when it has the same sound, but it's a different math. So it has agreement in the sound world, but a different essence behind it. So Lamed Aleph is lo, which means no, but Lamed Vav means to and for him. So the way to get from the path, any path, to the Messiah is when it's going to be to him and for him. How did Jesus get on the water, to walk on the water? Jesus is on the water, and he's your fixed point of reference, because anywhere you are, as long as you're lined up with him, you're going straight. So Jesus says to him, come. And what direction did Peter walk on the water? You focus on walking on the water. To him! Lo! To him! To him! The Mem, the Messiah. I'm going to him. I'm on a path. I'm walking on the water. Where? Not just to walk on the water, go. You know, this is not him walking on the water. That means nothing. He swam later in John 21 to shore when he saw him again. He didn't just say, hey, everybody, wow, I got this down. I could walk and I could move back. That's nothing. The people who do that at different places today, they're still going to hell. Because they're not going to him. It's not for him. She said, you did that for, Matthew 7, 21 and 23. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, but we do the will of my Father who's in heaven. Lord, didn't we do miracles in your name? Didn't we cast out demons in your name? Didn't we prophesy in your name? And he said, I never knew you. We never had covenant. You never did it for me. You never came to me. I was never in view, so I don't see you. I don't know you. We haven't cut covenant together. All paths lead somewhere else. But every eye will see him and stand before him. Dalet Mem. Look at all your words from now on and see how far the letters are apart. And what number and word will get you from one letter to the next. They're not just put next to each other for a reason.
Wow.
You've got to get from one letter to the next. We did this from root to fruits. They all have particular points of reference that get you from one step to the next, and it's a path that's hidden in plain view. So I'm going to get from this path to the Messiah. Everything I am doing in my life must be for him. If it's not for him, he'll take us somewhere else. God said, you did that for you. One guy who died and went to heaven, he had 104 spiking fever in the military. He was not a believer. God took him to heaven. He stood before God, and God says, what have you done with your life? And if you could sweat up there, he was. And then finally he figured, oh, yeah, I was an Eagle Scout. Yeah. And God told him, said, you did that for you. Not for him. Lo, Lamed Vav. And if it's not for him, it doesn't count. If your kid says, I love you, just to pick up a bunch of money and get some favor and special perk, then that doesn't count. If somebody says, I love you, and the motive behind it is not for you and for the marriage, that doesn't count. If the heart, God tests the quality of a man's heart. So if you are going to experience his blood, then the path to Messiah must be to him and for him, which the very word blood defines in a part that you can't see, but now you can't miss. That is one other piece I've got to give you. This word, emet. Is God good to us or what?
Yes.
You have a big God, people.
You're not kidding.
Let's not, I will tell you this, and I hate talking about myself, I only do it if it's going to be helpful. No matter how many times I've gone through the Bible and what language, and I sit before God, like Pastor Hagden, I'm sure we all have experienced this here. God overwhelms you
Yes.
in a hurry.
Yes, he does.
I'm looking for him, he's showing, and God is far more anxious than us. God says, write this down, look at this here, stop here, spend more time with me. Let me show you this here. And many times it's when I'm walking around the house, it's not just when I'm sitting prim and proper at the desk, that happens too. But God catches you at those moments where your mind is not on yourself and other stuff, you're just walking around, God, good! Throws it right in there and you go, whoa! And God sees if you're going to fish with him and say, I have so many more things to tell you, but, will you spend time with me? What an offer. That's there for all of us. What is this word, emet? Like the football player, Emmitt Smith? Emet is truth. Jesus is the Aleph and Tav, is he not?
Yes.
He's the Aleph, which is the first letter, like Alpha, Beta, but it's Hebrew's Aleph, and the last letter is what? Tav, right? So, Tav is the last. In the word emet for truth, he is the first and last in that which is the first and last. So one of the ways, this is et, and it's only used of God himself. The middle mem also means Messiah. So this term here, et, is one of the names for God. It's the only word in the Hebrew language that has no translation. Why? Because when you have a meaning, you have a boundary. You say this is a fruit, it's not a vegetable. You say this is a house, then it's not a parking lot. If you say God is your king, then you didn't say with the word king, you didn't say he's your friend, he's your counselor, he's functioning here as king, he's coming back as lion, that means lion, he's coming back as lamb, that defines the nature, identity, character, and essence. But when you pick a name for himself, that every other word in the entire Hebrew language has a translation except this word here, Aleph Tav, et, you pronounce it as et, E-T. It has no definition. So in our book, when we did the names of God, we did 20 names of God out of 700 that God gave us to do. It took us 3 years. On that cover of that, it says, everyone has an English translation except that word et. In the Hebrew Bible, the lines on line interlinear, it has nothing underneath it. Why? Because he cannot be defined. He who has no beginning and no end cannot be defined by any language or any term in any way. So no definition tells you he's the beginning, of which there's no beginning before him. He's the end, of which there's nothing after him. And he who was the beginning and the end has made everything in between. And everything in between is made through him, which is a man for Messiah being in the middle, and everything came through him that was made, and nothing has been made except that which has been made through him. So on the board you have Aleph Tav, the Messiah, God, and Mem for the Messiah. Now this is what God gave us a little bit earlier, and this is the final piece, which is God stopped me and says, you're not done. I want to talk to them, and you'll be first. So sit down. And I sat down and he said, now look slower. Always what I found, which is a wonderful secret that's not a secret unless you don't know it. We often run through things so fast we miss. It's like eating your food and not chewing it. That doesn't work well. Slow it down. And when I think I'm just slow it down, when I think I got to slow it down, it says, I'm not asking what you know. I'm asking you, I'm telling you, I want to show. I'm going to show you something you've never seen before, so stop thinking. And for me, I know how to not talk in his presence. For hours, that's no problem. He's there, he's God, we're not. That's eternal. He's God, we're not. He's God, we're not. He said, what's the first letter in Emet? The first letter only. Aleph, and he's the Aleph, so that represents God, right? Now you've heard this term before. If you take God out of truth, you're left with what? Mate, which is what? Mate is a corpse, and it's also the term for dead. So it's a dead corpse. It's a doubling effect. So God, when somebody says, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth, and it's nothing about God, you're left with what? Just a dead corpse. No life in it. No blood, no life. No truth. We're not done. We've done that before. Read it slower. God is, you didn't read. A dead what? A corpse is a body. It doesn't say God is dead. It says God is a dead what? When did you become alive? When? Who died?
When he became a corpse.
When he became, say it again.
When he became a corpse.
Stand up. Stand up. Just point your hands to our brother. Lord, based on what he said here, a new revelation, a new understanding, and a new level for you. That'll put a whole new boat back in you there.
Yes.
Any tapes or anything you need help, just say the word. Anything. Okay, you step up, keep quiet. Mark, you'll also pray for him. Say, what's in your heart for Hector right now? A word or a sentence. When it comes up, say it, okay? You have it in your soul now, you say it, or say it and tell him later. You just stand up whenever, okay? Good, Pastor. God is a dead corpse. That's when truth is known. Now, if you try to save your life, you'll lose your life. If you lose your life for his sake, you'll find it. Now, having a dead corpse is very interesting. Philippians 3:10 and 11. Watch carefully. Philippians 3:10 and 11. And if you don't have this, you're not going to get to the truth. So Philippians 3:10 and 11, with the term truth, but seen this way. Philippians 3. Oh, that I may know him, which it doesn't say. It's in the infinitive, which is far better. In order to know him when? To know him timelessly, eternally, forever. In order to know him and the power of his resurrection, which comes out of death, and the fellowship of his sufferings. Here it comes. Sum morpho, being conformed to his death. What is the term for death? Mawet. Say mawet or mavet. Mawet in biblical Hebrew. This is death. We did a teaching called Only the Dead Enter. What is the difference between this term mem and tav and mem vav tav and mem tav? There's a man in between. It's a dead man. Alright? It's a dead man. That's death. But in truth, you can't have truth without death. A dead corpse. Not dead, but a dead corpse. But it's a specific dead corpse. God's. What are you going to do with God's dead corpse? What are you going to do with his death? If you don't do anything, you won't live. Listen, this is in English, a language I rarely use. So I have to. Now listen to this part here. Sumorphizo is the exact term about death. All to know him, and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering, being conformed to his death. The conformed means to be made into the same image. Conform with form, the same dead form. Not just anybody, a lot of people die. Conform to the image of him who is truth. God's corpse, which was on the cross of God-man. Being conformed to his death. For what purpose? In order that I might attain unto the resurrection from the dead.
Okay.
I can't get there.
That's right.
The resurrection from the dead. Not that I've ever attained it already. Wait a minute. What's he talking about? He's talking about the rapture? No. He's talking about resurrection power. That's available now. That's
Yes.
8th day. That's
Yes.
new beginnings. But I can't get to the 8th day without being dead on the 6th day.
Yes.
But it's not just any death. Since I was co-crucified with Christ, then the way to live is to die. Which, of course, takes you to 2 Corinthians 4:10.
Yes.
Of course.
Indubitably.
Really?
Always, how often? Always carrying about, listen to it carefully, always carrying about, always, how often? Always carrying. Means you gotta lift something. When you lift something, it requires effort, doesn't it? Choice
Yes.
and effort.
Yes.
Hold it close if you're gonna lift it.
Yes.
Always carrying about where? In your body. Where?
In your body.
Why doesn't it say in your mind? In your body.
See?
The death of
That's what was crucified.
in my body. Maybe just Wednesdays and Sundays. Oh, always. In all ways. And what's going to be the benefit of that? In order that the life of Jesus might be made manifest in your body. So somebody could walk right by you and touch you and be healed. The very glory of God can just heal as you walk by. You walk into a room and mouths are shut and demons run. You don't have to throw them out. They're thrown out.
Yes.
They can't stand in that presence. The freer you are, the more bound they are. And the one whose name every knee bows is only one. And when you show up with God's truth, God's dead corpse in your body, now you carry the life of Jesus that's manifest through his death. Because death and life, not in reverse order, are in the hand of the tongue. Those who love it will eat its fruit. Those who reveal the Father to it will have the fruit of that victory. Or else you'll know it, but never know it in the sense of experience it there. There'll be head knowledge, but not knowledge that is experienced. And this is a book to be lived. So the truth of the truth is, without God, you got a dead corpse. With God, you got God's dead corpse. Which one do you want? If you want the truth, God comes with a corpse that you must carry about in your body and stop trying to live. Learn to die. Being conformed to his image to attain to resurrection. You can't resurrect a living body. You can resurrect a dead body. But the one that you plant is not the one you raise. So now you come out with power and victory, and now you have heaven on earth, and demons will be afraid of you forever. Mouths get shut as you walk into the room. People's hearts are open before you say a word, because Jesus has been displayed, manifest in your very body, which is in this third, fourth dimension of time, space, and is here in front of them all day long. Or else, if not, they see us.
What a letdown.
It's all right. It's okay, you know, we're all hopefully nice people with some character references and all, but they didn't come to see me. When the people came when the Greeks came in John 12:21 to the apostles, they didn't say, we want to see you. I'm going to close on this. They said, sir, which is one of the themes of our ministry, sir, we wish to see Jesus. We didn't come to see you, but we heard you know how to get us there. So get me there. I didn't come to see you. They didn't come to see me. We came all to see him. And I personally and professionally and spiritually think we have seen him more clearly.
Yes.
And we can love him more dearly and worship him more sincerely. 1 Ecclesiastes. It's in a plural form. The English will always fail to mess that up. And you may have you find one, let me know, but I haven't in my little experience.
Well, and
seen
that's
one
where
that
it
gets it
comes,
right.
that's where it comes the translator
Oh, they're in trouble.
idea.
A bunch of
So, well,
them in
that's
trouble.
not saying they made a mistake and then he makes a correction. That's what happened there. It kept, that's
What's the
an
mark?
error.
Creators is
Young's
plural.
translation says it, remember also your creators in the days
Oh,
of
I love Young.
I do too, and I was actually looking it up in that one too. 'Cause,
One of the few that often gets it right.
yeah,
Good, thank you, I feel better. You know how much more work? I'm happy to do it. Much of the time we're fixing stuff while we're revealing other things.
and it capitalizes creators
You almost had
too.
that over here, almost lost that, you know, but it wasn't on my menu. No, it's okay. And what?
It capitalizes creators, yeah.
Oh, good. This is Young's? I like that. Emmet. Emmet is which room?
Yes.
The second room. How do you get there?
Through the first room.
Perfect.
the way.
The way. Now, what is the way?
That's okay, it's
You
fine.
come in with a
Jesus.
sacrifice. You're gonna do it whose way?
His way.
So what did you say?
Yeshua.
Okay, so Yeshua is the way. So you can't go through the first door without first going through.
Him.
So what's the first thing you do when you go through him? You have to sacrifice who?
You, well,
Ultimately you, is
You.
correct.
Sacrifice of praise?
Say again,
by
sacrifice?
yourself.
Of praise?
Ultimately, yes. Next, you go to the brazen laver, right? Which you have a perfect reflection of yourself against the backdrop of heaven as you look into it, being the Spirit and the Word. Therefore, you come through the death of Yeshua, God's corpse, because that first, the brazen altar is a picture of the cross, right? So the only way you can come to the door of truth is through that expression of truth
Yeah, no, we're gonna
that
do
takes
that
you
now.
through derech, the way. And the way is death before life.
Oh, that's why it says that in the prayer. Neither
Death
death nor
and-
life, nor
Yeah.
powers, nor principalities.
Death and life from the hand of the tongue. Those who love it will eat its fruit. So God's dead corpse is the body of Yeshua, who's gone. That is the entrance to the next room, which you can't get to, the door of truth, without the sacrifice of God.
Yeah.
He is the way. And the way as the way, the truth. Now, is the... And we'll do that another time then, about the way itself. Just on this word here. Now, to fulfill truth, you know, of course, you take away Aleph from truth, take away God from truth, you're left with a dead corpse. So people who try to do that all day long, moral relativism, situational ethics, there, it's whatever you want it to be, it's how you feel that day, 2 and 2 is 5, we can prove it. I've heard this stuff, it's like all over the map. We wrote that person back a long letter within which I told them, I said, you don't really live that way. And if you did, the government has its own way of doing numbers. When you do with the IRS, you're not going to tell them 2 and 2 is 5. Your salary's going to be reported a little bit
Well,
different.
you could tell them, but
They get room and board somewhere else. Now look at that. Fill in the distance. Yeah. Should I get a pen? We have a pen.
Yes.
Okay. So what Ruth saw earlier, you have 1, 40, and 400, right? From 1 to 40, which we haven't done yet, is 39. 40 to 400 is 360. Because she remembered well from class, there was a, so this is, how do I get, now these letters are neighbors. They had lived next door to each other in time and space, in true time and space. This world is just an expression. My word will not pass away. This is going to go on. In the beginning, it says, the Jews have an interesting understanding. In the beginning, God made the Aleph and Tav, and from the Aleph and Tav, He made all the rest. He spoke creation into existence. So the Word is behind everything that stands. And when God withdraws His Word, then it won't stand anymore. So, He holds all things together through His Word, right? Hebrews 1:3.
Right.
That's 360. So one of the words here is shani, right?
Right.
There are other words that equal 360. So from the mem to the tav, the last two, it takes 360. You need shani, which is the other of the two words for worm, that gets you from the mem of Messiah to the cross. Go back to the words themselves. How do I get from the Messiah to the cross when a Messiah is a worm? He will be the cross and the covenant that way, fully expressing this through these two coming together, Messiah as the worm. And that's the truth. That gives you a dead corpse, which is the Messiah who is the worm on a cross who dies for us. How do you have a neighbor next door? When you want to see him or her, you go walk over there. So there's something you have to do to get from here to there. So there's a space between the letters, even when you don't see a space between the letters. This is the space.
Thank you.
Yes, the space that's no space. That's it. Now, on this quickly.
Is it something to pass over?
Those are expressions of, yes, of course. That would be one expression of this, yes. So keep that in mind. Good. Good, Paul. Just want to get your timing better. That was good. Timing. Aleph to Mem. So from God to the Messiah, which is, the word has to fit that concept.
Yeah.
It bridges the two neighbors who love each other, and God put them next to each other. Therefore, those two need a word that equals 39.
And that word will have to fit.
Conceptually, all that. And frankly, here's what's an interesting thing. All words that equal 39 will fit there.
Uh-huh.
But you may not see, like if we say,
Context also has to be taken.
in this, all the context is already taken into account because the math has already done it for you. So that it has to equal weight. Yes. Now, the words are already in context because they're positioned between these two. So the context is there by the neighbors. Now you're saying, how do I bridge that? There will be different shades. I don't like the term shades. There'll be different facets of the same diamond, gem, facets of the gem that will express that. So the question now for you is, what words equal 39 that would fit here?
Fit where?
Between Mem and Tav for Emet.
For something that's 39?
I mean, Aleph and Mem. You know, your answer, I hope, is good.
I'm not answering yet.
It's good. How do you say good?
Tov?
Very good. Tov. And it's spelled Tov. That equals.
Ted. Wow.
Tav?
Vav.
Tav?
Baby.
Now that'll come up short, right? So
Yeah.
that can't be the one.
That can't be the
So
one.
let's try another one.
Ta-
That's how you start to think. What's 39? Give me another one for
What's
39.
another T sound?
Tav, which is
That's
400,
too
so
much.
that's going to be too much.
What's
So you already
another
know
T
what it's
sound?
not. Tet.
Tet? Tet bait?
Tet what?
Bait.
Tet 8 is not enough. That's 11. You want to get to 39. What pick
Okay,
the,
yeah,
what is
right.
it? Even without knowing any of the Hebrew
First.
words.
Tet
39. Give me a
bait.
to get to 39, the shortest way, you need a 30 and a
You
9.
need a llama.
A lamed goes somewhere, so we're going to just put a lamed here and we'll see what ends up. Because you can derive, like in a math formula, we have an unknown
Lamed is
factor,
what?
you should be able to derive the rest.
Lamed is 30?
Lamed is 30, what's 9?
Ted.
Tet. Is there a word that... Latet is lamed tav
Yes,
tav.
yes.
That's
Yes,
it's
no.
fine. It's just learning.
Yeah.
You start, now you know that's something else. That's what? That's to give. And that's going to be 830. So you want...
About a dollar and,
Well, you already have two letters, but you don't know the word, so that's
Yeah,
the
I don't
problem.
know the word.
What is the word tal in Hebrew?
Tal? Very, very high.
In the day of your power, your youth will be to you like the tal, like the dew.
Oh.
So, go ahead.
Just stop. No.
Okay.
Slow down. I'm not up to you yet. I'm sorry. Actually, you keep zooming ahead. I'll catch up to you. Tal, dew. There'll be neither rain nor dew when it's under a curse at this time. Tal, to surround the authority, to surround the teaching. God's dew. The dew of God will bring them to be realized in the Messiah. Your youth, now this is the dew that falls from the sky, that's its own teaching when we did for this purpose. Of course, the word purpose, and what's the Hebrew word for purpose?
Matara.
Good! Matara. What is the term for rain? Matara. What is the term for purpose? Matara. So what does the rain and homologic cycle have to do with purpose? Everything. And he'll come like the clouds. What is one of the Jewish terms for Messiah? The cloud man.
Yes, yes.
Who's the seventh? Interestingly, the seventh son in 1 Chronicles 3, I think about 21. The seventh son of a father, his name is Anani, the cloud. So now you start to see, and what is Ayin Nun, to see the life of life. Well, that would be Yeshua, of course, the one who comes with the clouds. This is the cloud man. So, one of his titles. Now, your youth, in the day of your power, your youth will volunteer freely. They're like the dew of your youth. How? So God's dew are going to be realized in the Messiah when he comes in his fullness. When does he come in his fullness? As the final mem of Adam, which is the last letter. But when does the last become first? When it becomes La what? La Mortar. What? Mord what? La Mortar Bet. Right? You see it's Hey or Aleph. La Mortar.
Heard the word.
La Mortar Bet. Which is what? In Isaiah 9:5 or 6, depending on if you're Hebrew or English. To the increase of his government and of his peace there'll be no end. The final mem is at the beginning after the prefix here. It's always at the end. It's a final form. Why is it at the beginning? God goes, the last Messiah is now first. He's coming back. And of the increase of his, the Messiah's government.
You know, what's in this book?
Of the increase of his. So God's youth will be realized in the final Messiah when he comes in the day of his power. That's the second coming.
Everything is there.
And that's where here it's realized in Isaiah when the zeal of the Lord of the armies will perform this. Tal is one word that absolutely helps you realize this truth. When he who is the truth comes back, he will come back with his people, or the youth.
The cloud, right?
He's the cloud, but the people themselves. What's another word for 39? Now this is where you start to get your vocabulary up a little bit. Let's see if we can find another one for you and see if it fits. Say again?
Roll.
Spell roll.
Gimel, Lamed, Vav.
Gimel Lamed Vav.
Gimel. Galil is to roll. Where are you looking that up?
I'm looking this at Bible Wheel. It's in
What?
Joshua 10:18.
Now watch out for prefixes and all. I want you just to have the word in its only form, which is why you have to be able to
Galu.
take those apart. Let's give you. I see where you are. The root is galal, but this is gul. Galal is gimel lamed lamed. So this is a conjugated form. So we could do the verbs, all right, and you'd be right to put it here. The verbs fit. Let me give you one more here. Remember, there's a lamed prefix. I don't want you to use that right now. If there is a different prefix, depending on what it is, some of them, it's just this one you have to watch with this one here. Well, you have to decipher through this here. Take hadal, because the hay means the. What is dal? It's one of the words for poor, the poor people.
Yes.
So, the poor. Hadal. So, what, lamed and 5 and 4, 39, right?
34 plus
5 and 4, 35 and 4. 35 and 4 is 39. That fits. So,
the poor.
God, he made himself poor that we would be made rich. God is the poor one, who is your Messiah, which is the truth expressed now, because that gets you from God, who is the poor. These are hidden. All these words here, every single word in the Hebrew language that equals between every one of the thousands of words in the Bible. Every space between that is a space that has no space, but the space exists
That's
in
hidden?
space,
It's hidden?
clearly hidden. Because you can't get from an aleph to whatever letter. How do you get, you said aleph before for father. You'll know this one, let's see. And it's not a word, but it's going to be a way to get there. What is the shortest word? The three equals 3.
Oh,
Av or ab for father. What are the 2 letters? Aleph and
Beit.
Beit. What's the distance? What's in the space between 1 and 2? How do you get to 2? 1 and 1. What's the only other letter that equals 1?
No, olive.
So to get from Aleph to Beit,
You need an olive.
you need God.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Because no one's going to lead God. No one's going to lead God anywhere and do anything. And what is God's? What is the 10th tabernacle of the ones that are listed? That becomes the holy habitation for God. Ephesians 2:22.
Us.
You become a holy habitation.
Yeah.
You sure?
Through
You sure?
him. Through him.
Yeah.
Through Christ.
You too. You know what I was remembering? Remember the teaching that you gave
Good job.
about the alphabet?
Yes. This is the
One
root to
got you
fruit.
to-
This is where we are.
Yeah.
You got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Root to fruit. So to get to the house or the temple,
So it was amazing.
it's to God. Now, all of those are the way you counsel anybody. We did that for a person you brought up that day when we were teaching. It's just, he's right here on the board. When we did altar talk in the class, he's right here. Because whenever you have a problem, it means whatever you're lacking before, okay? We did it all positive, and then we did it negative, and we showed how the one is the one. Now, everyone has a root to fruit, right? Wrong. I can play poker, but I don't. So, 2 of them don't have, one doesn't have a root, the other one doesn't
Oh,
have a
no,
fruit.
yeah, okay, yes.
Which one doesn't have a root? You get 22
Olive.
chances. Why? Because God has no beginning
Yes.
and no end.
Yes.
Then what about the Tav? Does it have, where's the fruit?
Doesn't have a fruit.
It's in the future.
Say it again.
It's walking in the future.
He's good.
Yeah.
The foot points you to a place that you can't see, but you'll get. You can't see, but you'll get there. We gave somebody an experiment to start to work on, to work in a whiteout space and I'll call it a blind out space. You know, like when somebody is in the snow, like in
Yes,
Alaska
yes,
or
yes.
Antarctica, and it dropped
Right
in.
on.
You have no bearings, no land, no sea. It's all snow. It's all white.
Mm-hmm.
You got a sky and white. How are you going to find your way around? Or in the desert, like in the sub-Sahara, and everywhere you look, it's sand. There's no mountain ranges. There's no cities. And there's no life
Sand. It's like,
forms that could direct you accordingly. It's just you're there. But there is a way to navigate.
Son.
With no sun. Just take the sun out of the equation for a moment. You can there. But in whiteout conditions, that would be harder to do if it was in a snow environment.
No sun?
Take the sun and moon out of the equation.
Okay.
How would you navigate yourself around?
Compass.
You have nothing else.
What, you want me to die?
It sounds like it, right? So how do you do it?
North Star?
Kill me now.
No, he said no stars.
No stars.
How
No
about,
compass,
how about
no
the morning
nothing.
star?
What are you talking
Right.
about?
Because Jesus'
But
name.
you said that there was
No
nothing.
stars. You said
Jesus'
nothing.
name is the morning
It
star.
is his name.
So how is that?
Do you know how all life, the forms have different magnetic aspects, like
Yes.
they become birds or the
Yes.
piece of magnet in their brain to navigate them around?
Mm-hmm.
And how with the polar shift and changing of the actual grid lines there, they're
Yes.
running into things or beaching themselves or other things.
Yes.
Because they're losing the magnetic bearing as the magnetosphere around the Earth is weakening for the last
Yes.
100+
Yes.
years before there's a polar shift. And it'll be an actual polar shift, not just a magnetic one, based on Isaiah. The Earth will reel like a drunken man, and lay on its side like it's
Right.
dead. That's not just an electric field shift. That's a actual shift of the skin of the apple, the whole planetary surface. It's going to be rocking wild. This is going to be a place you want to be, except God calls one, you know, I mean, the people that are born for that time.
Right.
How did you navigate anywhere here in life? Notice we didn't say life on earth. How do you navigate in life, period? Except to the source of life, who is the immovable one, who doesn't change. You know the North Star, the pole star changes. Now it takes thousands of years to shift in the sky to a different one. So for all intents and purposes, people use it to navigate it, but it's not pure. It's not immovable. If it moves so much less, for basic intents and purposes, they can kind of navigate around and get to pretty much anywhere they want. But that's not what we said. With no natural relying on any source. The same as if you're in the middle of a city, you would be impossible to navigate yourself around in life. Whether you're a prince or a king, a billionaire, or just a guy in the street, or living off the street. Unless you have that connection with God, who's going to navigate us through every single part of life. You used to say you can't be lost if you're on earth.
Right.
Well, you can't be lost if you're in Christ. Now, that's not just only talking about ultimate terms, which is ultimately the most important. How many times have we all asked God, and the times even without asking, you ended up at the right place?
Mm-hmm.
You ended up making the correct turn, in spite of
Or
ourselves.
he sent an angel.
Yeah, one way or another, or got you home, was you had to be there 5:15, you know, I get it, to
Yes,
the
yes.
plane.
When I went to y'all city, I was coming back from a prayer meeting, and we were about to miss the plane. We were coming through New York, and I got so lost. I was driving, and I just said, Lord, help me. And then this guy drives up in this car
See that?
next to us. He says, are you lost? And I said, I'm trying to find LaGuardia Airport.
Oh, wow.
And he said,
Only watch.
and he said,
Here it comes.
just follow me.
See that?
And
Look
so
at
he
that.
drove us, and then when he got, he says, okay, now you just straight down, and he says something to the effect, yeah, I'm going to school to be a pastor, and I just love the Lord. And we had a little meeting of the church right there, and then he just sped off. And I thought, Lord, you sent him
You see that?
here, and I have to mention the time. It's like 3
How
o'clock in
many
the
times have you
morning.
seen that yourself?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, you just start counting.
yeah.
So, what happens is we start to have these flickers that
What
must
that Pastor
become.
Bo was doing out on the street 3 o'clock in the morning?
He was there just for her, just for Ruth.
Some things we just have to
Just
do.
have to do, right, exactly.
Some things we just have to do.
Yeah.
They're on assignment. Now,
That's right, that's
Mark
right.
was correct, and because you stepped into it,
Amen.
you stepped into the right stuff.
Now you have to explain the rest.
Yeah.
Normally, we haven't started with verbs because verbs change form. They're their own families and communities. If you take a word like tal for dew, your youth are to you, your youth are like the dew in a day of your strength.
Santo.
There you go. You are the poor one. God, who made himself poor as the Messiah that we would be rich, became that tolat, and here the shani, on a cross, which is the truth, and thus expressed as truth. That's all the truth. Now here's a verb, galal, from you get the term Galilee. Galilee. It means a wheel or a roll, really. Isn't it interesting that 11 of the 12 apostles came off that wheel,
Yeah.
except Judas.
Oh, yeah. That's right,
Judas
yeah.
from Iscariot.
That's right.
He wasn't from the city.
Right.
He was only 11 of the 12, and the only one who's a traitor didn't come from there. Interesting how do you get born where you're supposed to be born? And in this case, he didn't live up to what God would have him ideally be. He chose the wrong way. You okay? I need 2 minutes? Okay. Now, Mark brought up a verb. This is from galal, liglol, with a lamed as a prefix. Why?
I don't know.
Why does every verb start with a lamed?
Lamed,
Two
Two
E.
or four.
Oh,
la,
Two or
the,
four.
not the. That's hot.
But that's the word lo, just the lamed itself. What does the lamed mean?
Authority, teach,
Authority, teaching.
She had a water and a buffet.
Okay. You find it by yourself?
I have these two, and us two.
Oh, four.
For us four, I had a drink,
Thank you,
yes.
thank you.
Okay. So for the two drinks,
One drink, is it?
One drink, I had water only.
Or two drinks
We
then,
have
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
you by yourself?
yeah.
One drink?
So, when you have a verb in the infinitive, it's teaching. How long does teaching go on? Okay,
Would you?
All the time.
all the time, right?
it's in the infinitive. Teaching authority of God. This is gul, right?
Glue, you said
Gul.
glue.
Now for, you had it perfect. Yes, how do you spell it? Gimel Vav Lamed. 36, 3, 39.
Not that kind.
Commit your works, commit your way to the Lord, and trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. I don't quite like that. Commit, gul, literally means roll your works to the Lord.
Yes.
I like that
Yeah,
action.
remember that.
Roll. Why would you roll it?
rolling is continuous. It's not jerky, it doesn't have a beginning, end, it's a continuous movement.
No beginning and no end?
'Cause you gotta have
Just stay there,
circle to
just stay there.
roll.
That doesn't. Hmm?
I think you have to have a circle to roll.
That's your-
Like apples of gold. We just say like apples of gold.
And go ahead.
Aber Tapur Zahav, Maskio Kasef, Davor Al Afnav. 25:11 Proverbs.
Yes, yes.
Not like apples of gold. Inside settings of silver. The most precious things are hidden deeper. Apples of gold in settings of silver. Remember we did it years ago. Exactly, you're right.
That's good.
I was trying to remember.
Is a word having been spoken upon its wheel.
Proverbs what?
25:11. As a word having, it usually says a word aptly having been spoken in season. The Tibetans get this right, and it's still dead wrong.
With the wheel.
Yeah, they get the concept. When they have in their temples there, they have these prayer wheels, and they got to keep them moving. So as you go by, they spin it, so it has a continuous sense. So somewhere they're waking up and they're still in the dark. A word from the word lives. When it's God, it has no beginning and end, and it will have an ongoing sense. So a word like apples of gold inside settings of silver is a word having been spoken, not just spoken, but a word having a word spoken.
Does it have anything to do with the yellow wheel?
Yes, you can. It's a word having been spoken, not just spoken, that's where it's often missed. I take the phone. And then use the rest for something like driving, okay?
Thank you.
Thank God. We've really got one
What
topic.
is that? Oh, that's you.
So, a word having been spoken upon its wheels. So, before we speak words that we own, that we'll answer to, I will definitely answer to before God as well. No, that's it. So, the word is spoken upon its wheels, which means you must know that word. Its letters, its meaning, what you're learning, its mathematical understanding. What does that word really say? Where does that word live? How does it live? Who does it live next to? What is it saying here, Lord? You're the Word, you gave us the written Word, you are the living Word, your Word lives upon its own wheels, it has its own existence. So, Since a word is a davar, a path of the Son, a path to the Son, that word will live because it's of you, it brings us to you, and it's of you. It's your door, it's your path. Roll. This is a command. God rolls
Yes, yes, yes.
the dew and as the poor right into the fill himself as our Messiah. Because a body he prepared for me, this is going to be a dead corpse, right? So we'll highlight this and we won't put a period there, we'll put a pause there. That's if you need. It's cold.
You should be surprised if it's warm.
Well,
That's
I
a-
know. I
It's
was
warm,
watching,
oh my
I was
God.
waiting to gauge your reaction. If I had to go to the army, it'd be no problem. We're gonna eat all your food cold. And punished, because you talk a lot.
It should be glass.
Somehow my mother thought that eating it hot, the food was better, you know.
Comfort food. So this begins,
You
your
too?
understanding
Yeah, I
of,
don't know how he eats cold food all the time.
I drink coffee almost cold.
No, really?
Because I have it there for almost an hour. I save
You
my
know, we have to
coffee.
get you a little coffee.
this is in a command form here.
You know that
This
little
is an
tray
imperative.
you put your coffee on and it keeps it warm? If I find one, I'll get it to you. You've seen that, right?
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
When you have a verb in an imperative, gul, from galal, galil, Galilee, roll. And it's not like God saying, roll that to me. Commit that to me. Roll it in my direction. The implicit part is that it's a word already upon its own wheels. You wouldn't bring to God a bad sacrifice.
Right.
We wouldn't bring to him one of our own words. Because he won't back it up. Lord, would you do this for me? And people do it all day long. He doesn't hear the prayer of the wicked. To hear in Hebrew is to obey. But why does he hear and obey the prayers of the saints when we pray his will? He's watching over his word to perform it. Now what does it say in Isaiah 50, what, verse 13? 58, 13, which is a Sabbath, which is also now. Last time I checked, Sabbath is also right now. There we go. Okay. So what do you do on the Sabbath? What is one of the commands of the Sabbath?
Speak not one word of our own.
Not one of your own words, which means don't make your own path, Don't bring your own stuff and try to bring it into my temple. And your words, I'll point here, your words, your way, it'll die. You might also. Because God will destroy a temple at times within. So don't you know you're a temple for God? You're gonna violate the temple as a priest in that body, as a temple, and speak words that I don't hear, I don't recognize, I don't know, to know intimately. They're not part of me. I'm not married to that. You're bringing a strange sacrifice. You have another father. There's two fathers. Barabbas was Bar, Abba, son of a father, and Jesus, the son of the father. So the choice was always between son of the thief, the murderer, before the world, or you want the Son of God. And there are those who chose Jesus, the Son of God, and those who chose the son of another father. John 8:44, the father of lies, has his own offspring.
The same thing.
Isn't that interesting?
And so they chose, what is it?
Same thing as Dom.
Speak up, Daniel.
I'm asking.
It's exactly the same as Dom, which is the door of the Messiah, the final Messiah, or the door of the ultimate chaos. Perfect, yes. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. No, she'll take care of it. Let's go say hello.
You're welcome.
This is the beginning of one word, right? This is the beginning of one word and seeing what's in the space that has no apparent space. The space of this within the space. Meaning there's a space here, but it's not evident. And that's how you will translate and go probe the word in deeper, that God places those side by side with a deeper meaning. It has a numeric mathematical equivalent, and then every one of those definitions that are accurately translated, that equal that value, fit in there, and then all those kids are under that same value of, let's say, 39 or 360 here, and therefore they're all part of one family, and they all have a common last name with an individual expression, Bob, Steve, Mary, Sue, John, Elizabeth, but they have one last name. And that's how you get from one neighbor to the next, like that. To the next.
Sheken.
Shachin.
Shechin.
Yeah, shachin. And that would be another word. And you start to first look at it layer by layer. The word itself, the meaning, letter by letter. The position, is it an aleph, is it beit, is it gimel? Draw that out. Then you start to do the math in between to see that. And then you start to see truth as truth in a way that is not correct. That is first the few, then a size or minority, then a majority, then everyone. That'll get his whole church up to speed. Those people that are pressing into that now, it's a good thing.
Then you can go to Psalm 19.
Yes.
And go to the olive section, the mem section, and the Torah
I
section.
think that's your.
Did you hear? This is another way to draw more out. So Psalm 118, the soul's journey, we have the word penance.
Yes.
Has 3 letters. There's 8 verses per letter.
Ooh,
So to have a deeper
Yes.
understanding of that, we did a teaching once at the church. What is the young?
I'm here struggling without my glasses.
that's my pen.
What?
Michael's church.
Yes, Michael's church. Remember
This
what?
is for you, Lucy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I gave you the wrong one.
Thank you.
We did it with
Michael's church, Michael Rivera's church.
yes, Mark remembers it well. We did the Father. So what verses did we use for that from 118? Your song. Your song. Your song. Aleph 1 to 8, 8, 9 to 16. Those 16 verses in the plain text give you an immediate 16 verses of information about the Father in order.
Yes.
How to approach God the Father.
Yes.
And the way I remember the class being, you can take any word
Oh,
Yeah, all the letters there, Aleph to Tav.
They're there.
and plug it and know more about, well, not about him, about that word, a bigger
Depth.
view of that.
More
Yeah.
depth. Oh, the Lord, you would increase the length and the breadth and the depth and the height.
Dimension to dimension, we were just not talking about.
Now, if we don't do that, then everybody's idea of the Father will come through their own worldly experience. A good father, a bad father, no father, whatever father. A stepfather, a mother who's a
And it's
mother who's a
sad,
father
and
because
it's-
there's no father at home.
And it's sad, a lot of people even in the
See
church
God
have
that
that
way.
view.
Sure.
They see God the Father as they have, how their father was. So they don't want to hear about, I remember when the Lord showed me that, I'm praying over this young lady, and I'm saying, who's supposed to be your father? That girl's face changed. She goes, and I go, oh, what
Not
happened
the
here?
father.
And then the Lord had me give her
And
other words, so he
and
was,
if we
he's a
take
good
the
father.
limits off of our imagination and realize just how big God is.
Because she was comparing her own father. So God, this is how God is, and no, she's a good father. And so I started telling her what kind of father he is. Not the one that she had, but many of us go through that experience of,
But you have to understand, there's a lot of women walking around that don't even have an
Oh.
image of what a father is.
nowadays,
That's part of the breakdown.
I don't know what the
family.
numbers are saying, but the numbers are crazy
It's the breakdown of the family.
of the family. Even in the Latino community, where family
That's big.
is a big thing.
But
But
they're
even
but they're changing so swiftly into something that's